Ever catch yourself like endlessly scrolling, swimming in information, but not feeling any closer to like solid ground?
Totally.
Like we're chasing something more, some
Yeah.
deeper meaning or lasting happiness, but it's always just out of reach.
Mm-hmm.
In a way, that's the essence of what Eckhart Tolle tackles in A New Earth.
Mm-hmm.
We're diving into excerpts from chapters 6, 9, and 10, not to preach spirituality or anything,
Right.
but to mine Tolle's insights on ego, awakening, and purpose
Yeah.
for whatever you find valuable.
Think of it as a toolkit, not a pre-built house, you know?
Okay, I like that.
These are lenses to examine your own experiences with, not
Yeah.
like doctrines to follow blindly.
Right, right. So chapter 6, we're going straight for the jugular, unmasking the ego. Tolle doesn't mince words, calling it a self-made illusion that we craft by identifying with external forms.
And forms is broad.
Okay.
It's possessions, jobs, even our thoughts and feelings.
Yeah.
Right? We build ourselves on these like fleeting things
Right.
instead of something deeper within.
Yeah. He nails this with the woman on the train example, right?
Yes.
We've all seen someone so lost in thought that they're almost not present.
Right. She's consumed by internal dialogue,
Totally.
blind to her surroundings.
Yeah, yeah.
It's powerful because it's us,
It is.
so easily trapped in the mind's endless chatter, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And this is key. Totally saying that identification with the thoughts, that voice,
Yeah.
that is the ego's root.
So it's not thinking itself that's bad, it's thinking we are our thoughts.
Exactly.
That's a distinction I hadn't considered before.
It's huge. And this ego, built on these thought forms,
Yeah.
it needs separation.
Okay.
Us versus them, never satisfied, always striving, you know.
Which is where negativity comes in, right? Like the ego needs drama to fuel itself.
Precisely. Enter the pain body.
Okay.
And this isn't just a metaphor. Tolle describes it almost as like an entity within us.
Yeah.
This mass of old emotional pain we carry.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting for me, the pain body.
Yes.
How does this play out in our lives, not just theoretically?
Okay, think about a time you, like, totally overreacted.
Oh, yeah.
Someone cuts you off in traffic.
Yeah.
A coworker snide.
Mm-hmm.
And suddenly, you're flooded with anger, way disproportionate to what just happened.
Oh, I've been there.
Right.
Total emotional hijacking.
Exactly. That's the pain body activate. It's not really about the traffic.
Right.
It's that old hurt getting triggered.
Mm.
We react not to now, but from that past wound.
So it's almost like we're like reliving that past hurt in the present moment.
Yes. And here's where it gets tricky. Tolle argues this pain body has its own energy, almost a life of its own.
Oh, wow.
It's seeking situations to keep itself going.
So how do we know if we're stuck in this pain body cycle and not just, having a bad day?
Well, overreactions are one sign.
Oh,
Another is constantly finding things to be upset about, even when things are good on the surface. It's like we unconsciously seek drama to feed this thing within us that thrives on negativity.
Yeah.
And to be clear, this isn't about like toxic positivity or ignoring real problems.
Right.
It's about recognizing when our reactions are disproportionate.
Yeah.
And stem from this deeper place of pain.
So essentially it's about becoming aware of the patterns in our reactions.
Exactly. The takeaway here is, by becoming aware of the pain body's existence, its energetic pull,
Yeah.
we can begin to disentangle ourselves from its grip.
So we've uncovered a pretty bleak picture.
Right.
This ego keeping us wanting, negative suffering. But if we end part 1 here, it's kind of a downer, right?
Right.
Thankfully, Tolle doesn't just diagnose, he offers solutions.
It's not enough to just like identify the problem, right?
Right.
Thankfully, Tolle offers a way out,
Okay.
awakening.
Awakening. It sounds a bit mystical, maybe even a bit intimidating to some,
Sure.
What does that actually mean in this context? Like, how do we even begin to awaken?
It's more practical than it sounds. Awakening, for Tolle, is about disidentifying from that ego.
Mm-hmm.
We're not our thoughts, we're not our emotions,
All right.
but the consciousness, the awareness that's observing them.
So becoming aware of the thinker, so to speak, not just lost in the thoughts themselves.
Exactly.
Okay, that actually makes it click a little bit more.
It's a shift from content
Okay.
to the space where that content arises.
So it's like stepping back from the movie screen of our minds and becoming aware of the theater itself.
Yes, and with that shift, we can tap into this like peace and well-being that's not dependent on externals anymore,
So it's not that problems magically vanish, but our relationship to them changes.
Exactly.
Okay, I need a real-world example here. What might this awakening actually look like in someone's life? Because right now it still sounds a bit abstract to me.
Tully tells this great story about his neighbor, Ethel.
Okay.
Years of anxiety, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then one night, complete meltdown, ranting, raving about everything wrong in her life.
Oh, wow.
But after the storm, after all that emotional release,
Yeah.
she finds this unexpected peace.
Wait, so peace through venting. That seems counterintuitive.
It's not the venting itself,
Okay.
but the letting go.
Mm.
By fully feeling her emotions, no resistance, Ethel inadvertently created space.
Interesting.
The intensity kind of cleared the way for awareness to come in.
So the key takeaway there is awakening isn't about suppressing our emotions, but it's about being present with them without judgment.
Exactly.
And in that space, that's where like peace can emerge.
Precisely. And that presence is key.
Yeah.
We disidentify from the ego, from the pain body, and reconnect with that deeper awareness, that observing consciousness.
Right. And that's like what Tolle would argue is our true nature.
Exactly.
Okay, this is what I love about like A New Earth. It makes this idea of awakening, this idea of purpose, feel accessible.
Absolutely.
It's not some grand quest to go on, but it's about how we're approaching each moment right now.
Yes.
Have you ever had a moment like that where you touched this like deeper awareness, even if it was brief?
There have been times, often in nature actually,
Interesting.
where I've felt a stillness, a presence
Yeah.
that was beyond the usual mental noise.
Yes. Those moments where like the world kind of falls away and there's just this sense of being.
Exactly.
Is that kind of what Tolle's pointing to here?
That's it. Fleeting as they may be, those are glimpses of our true nature, of what it means to be awake.
Wow. But how do we integrate that into daily life? Like, it's one thing to experience it for a fleeting moment,
Right.
but to actually, like, live from that place.
That's where Tully's distinction between outer purpose and inner purpose comes in.
Okay, so outer purpose being our jobs, our roles, the stuff we do out there in the world.
Yeah,
But inner purpose, that's this awakening part.
you've got it. And true fulfillment, he would argue, comes not just from what we do,
Mm-hmm.
but how we do it.
It's like bringing that awareness, that presence to everything.
Exactly. Tully calls this awakened doing,
Awaken doing, I like that.
bringing that presence and awareness to all actions, big or small.
This is why I love A New Earth, because it makes purpose feel accessible, you know? It's not about, like, what's my grand purpose? It's about how am I approaching this email, these dishes, this conversation?
Yes, exactly.
So how do we actually do this awakened doing thing? Is there a method, a set of techniques?
Tolle outlines 3 modalities:
Okay.
acceptance, enjoyment, and enthusiasm.
All right. Unpack those for me. What does, like, acceptance look like as we're, you know, doing the dishes or going to work?
Acceptance is saying yes to this present moment exactly as it is,
Okay.
without resistance.
So it's not resignation. It's not like giving up.
No, it's more like a radical embrace of reality, even when it's not our preferred reality.
Even when things are hard.
Exactly. And this creates space for peace, regardless of the circumstances.
So it's less about forcing change and more about surrendering to what is.
You got it. Now, enjoyment. This is about finding the joy in this present moment no matter what's happening around us.
Okay.
Appreciating the simple things, the beauty,
Mm-hmm.
the aliveness within us and around us.
Yeah.
Tolle's point is that joy doesn't have to be contingent on achieving or acquiring.
Right.
It's available right now,
That's a beautiful thought.
in the midst of ordinary life.
Okay, so we've got acceptance, we've got enjoyment. What about enthusiasm? This is where it feels like we move from just being to actually doing.
You're catching on. Enthusiasm, for Tolle, is the most potent modality.
Okay.
It's aligning our actions with our inner purpose, with the flow of life itself.
So it's like finding that sweet spot where our passion and our purpose intersect with what's right in front of us. Okay, now we're talking. This is where it goes from like philosophy to feeling truly applicable, you know?
Right.
But, and I think this is where a lot of people get stuck, what about that feeling of lack?
Yeah.
Even when we're trying to be present, be accepting, find the joy, there's still that voice that's like, it's not enough, you know?
That's a great point to bring up.
Yeah.
Because it leads us to one of Tolle's most profound insights, I think.
Okay.
True abundance isn't about external accumulation, but recognizing the fullness that's already present.
So it's not about getting more stuff. It's about shifting our perspective on what we already have.
You got it. The key takeaway here is, by shifting our focus from what's missing
Yeah.
to the abundance that's already here.
Yeah.
We open ourselves up to receiving even more.
So it's about shifting our focus from what we lack to what we already have. That sounds great in theory, but how do we actually do that? Is there a way to rewire our brains, so to speak, to perceive abundance instead of getting stuck in that scarcity mindset?
Tully would say, like, the ego with its constant wanting.
Right.
That's what creates that scarcity.
Mm-hmm.
But gratitude and generosity,
Okay.
those are the antidotes.
Okay.
They open us to a flow of abundance. It's already there. He has this like radical suggestion, right?
Oh,
You
yeah.
give what you think the world is withholding from you.
So if I'm feeling unappreciated, I should go out of my way to appreciate others. If I'm feeling financially strapped, I should be more generous with what little I have. That feels so counterintuitive.
It does, right.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the whole point. By giving what we feel we lack, we break out of that scarcity loop.
Yeah, okay.
We start to embody the very energy that we're seeking.
So it's not about like manipulating the universe into giving us more. It's about changing ourselves.
Exactly. It's like we're shifting from like, I don't have enough to I have enough to give.
Yeah.
And that subtle shift, that can have a profound impact on our experience.
This is blowing my mind a little bit
Mm-hmm.
because it's not about some like external manifestation magic. It's about changing our internal state, our way of being in the world.
Yes.
It makes abundance an inside job, which is kind of radical.
It is radical.
Yeah.
And it speaks to this idea that we're not just like these isolated individuals,
Right.
but we're part of something much, much larger
Mm-hmm.
when we tap into that interconnectedness.
Yeah.
We realize that abundance isn't a finite resource.
Okay.
It's an energy flow that we can all access.
And generosity, in a way, is like priming the pump, allowing that flow to move through us.
Exactly. Exactly.
As we're nearing the end of our deep dive into A New Earth, there's one Tolle quote that always sticks with me. This too will pass. It can sound pessimistic on the surface.
Right.
But you're saying it's actually quite profound.
It's not pessimism.
Okay.
It's a recognition of impermanence.
Okay.
Good times, bad times.
Yeah.
They're all in flux.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not about denying the reality of our experiences, but it's recognizing that clinging to them,
Okay.
whether it's pleasure or pain,
Right.
that creates suffering.
So it's about learning to ride the waves of life without getting so swept under by them.
Yes, exactly. When we grasp at things that are inherently impermanent, we set ourselves up for suffering.
Yeah.
But by recognizing that everything is in flux, we can find this like deeper sense of peace, a sense of being grounded in something more stable than the like ever-changing circumstances of life.
That's beautiful. So the key takeaway here as we're wrapping up is by truly embracing impermanence, we find freedom from that attachment and the suffering that comes with it.
Yes, beautifully said.
So as we wrap up, the million-dollar question for our listener is, what would it look like to live with this awareness of impermanence? How might that change our priorities, our relationships, our whole experience?
It's a lifelong exploration for sure,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
imagine
Yeah.
being less attached to material things, being more present in your relationships, more appreciative of simple joys.
Yeah.
Maybe you'd be quicker to forgive, more open to new experiences,
All right.
and more at peace with the natural ebb and flow of life.
I love that. More at peace with the ebb and flow of life, knowing that nothing lasts forever.
Exactly.
It's a beautiful vision, a call to live more consciously, more fully in each and every moment.
Beautifully said.
And on that note, we'll leave you to ponder that invitation. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into A New Earth.